We're small in number, but we're mighty in spirit. Right? Because we're heading towards Christmas. You know we're heading towards Christmas, right? Because we're heading that way. Some of the stories that we tell are the same stories that we tell every year, with slight changes in them. And that's the way this story is this morning. I'm going to tell you a very old story. And what we need to know about this story is that, like a lot of stories, it's not that it's necessarily actually true in that they happened the way it did, but the story is meant to help us understand what the Spirit is about, what God is about. And so let's hear this story. And so it starts in the desert, in the Holy Land, in the place where Jesus lived and taught people about God. But this story, although it happened at the time that Jesus was alive, it's not about him. It's about somebody else. And it happens in a small town in the land known as Judah. We're not sure. I was asked what the town name was, and the story doesn't tell us what the town name was. We just know it was a small town. So we just have to. It could be lake country. I guess it has to be river country because it was closer to a river than a lake. But anyway, this town, there were quite a lot of people that lived in this town, and most of them were quite poor. They worked very, very hard. Life was hard because it was so dry, and most of them were farmers. It was hard to make a good living, but they kind of hung in there and did the best they could. And this is the town where a boy named John was born. John wasn't much different from any of the other boys or girls in this town. He kind of grew up the same. He was from a poor family. But John noticed he was one of those children that some people would say had a very old soul. You ever heard that expression? His heart was kind of full all the time. He had this old soul. And he looked around at the people and he thought, you know, these people are really nice, but they don't seem to really know God. They don't seem to know God. And they went to the synagogue, to the church every week, but he didn't feel that they had God in their hearts. And he wondered about that. He also didn't like the fact that there were so many rules. There were rules for what you could eat and who you could play with and what you would do for work and all, and it went on and on and on. He thought there were just too many rules. He didn't understand why there would be so many rules, because that didn't seem to be the way that he thought God worked. And he finally got so tired of it that he left. He packed a little bag with a bit of food, and he left. He had no idea where he was going. He just knew he had to leave that town. And he ended up out in the real desert, where it was very, very hot and very dry. And he walked until he got there all by himself, out in the desert, in the wilderness. And he walked until he came to a river, because of course he needed to be able to get something to drink. And so he found a river, and that's where he spent his time. And he spent a lot of his time just praying and praying, trying to figure out what he was supposed to do with his life. Well, he was there so long that eventually his clothes turned to rags and he got bigger, and he ended up wearing camel's hair for clothing. And according to the the story, he ate grasshoppers mixed with wild honey. Well, the people in town started to wonder about John because he was kind of weird. And some of them thought they should go out and see what he was doing out there. And when people went out to see John, he told them about this God that he felt in his heart, this God that was with him all the time and helped him make his decisions, helped him to feel better about life. And they thought that was such a good idea that they joined him. More and more people joined him. And the way he would mark their change, their deciding to bring God into their hearts, was he would go into the river and he would push them down under the water, and it was a symbol of them coming up into a new way of seeing God and feeling God and a new life. And so all of these people did that, going under the water and coming up. And more people started to join John in the desert and lived there. I wonder why John went away to find God. I wonder why he left home and town. Because it was frustrating there? Maybe he wanted a place where there were no distractions. I wonder why so many people came to see John.
Because they were curious?
They were curious, I'm sure. Yeah.
That's not in the story.
And I wonder why John told the people they had to change the way they felt and understood God.
Because the way that they understood God was not the way that God probably wanted them to understand Him.
Yeah.
John the Baptist.
John the Baptist. That's what he was known as. Well, one of the things that he said to every person as they came out of the water was, you need to change your mind and your heart, and you need to get ready for someone else who's coming. Because I push you under the water, but this person who's coming is going to fill you with the Spirit. And so he was preparing that way. And we're going to sing a song called Prepare the Way of the Lord.